Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon again. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as JRC. But before we do the disclaimers, the usual rant. That's because I read ahead a little bit. We are once again going to be discussing the bizarre behavior rehearsal lessons, what Dr. Matthew Israel calls psychology. All right. Before we do, let's explain what these actually are, as opposed to the bunch of lies and downright stupidity, as well as intellectual fucking buffoonery we're about to descend into. Behavioral rehearsal lessons is this concept that Dr. Matthew Israel has of, scaring them straight. It's the same sort of thing that fuels the troubled teen industry. And we all know the abuses that are going on there unchecked, right? I'm going to scare them with something like a knife or whatever object it is that we're supposedly having a problem with. Now, let me tell you how these behavioral rehearsal lessons start. A child is grabbed at random points, random intervals in the day by a staff member. Some of these individuals are held up in the air by shirt collars and then threatened with the object that I guess they may have a hyper focus on, something of that nature, in order to show them it's bad. Okay, you're thinking, it's a logical fallacy. I can see why you would go there to a point. First of all, this is an extreme version of that, if you didn't notice. And it doesn't work if you haven't noticed. But there's more to it than that. When these bizarre so-called lessons are happening, if an individual reacts as most of us do in such situations where the flight or flight kicks in, if you scream or fight or try to get out of it, you're shocked. But since they do specifically this as a means to provoke a behavior out of you, and you do not produce this behavior during this, you're shocked for not producing the behavior. If it sounds insane, that's because that's what it is. So now, we're going to get into it, and we're about to read a bunch of pseudoscience and lies. So let's get to the disclaimers, shall we? In the description box, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Right? Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill, folks. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. We also have linked in there NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case those JRC bastards have the balls to see through with their threat. We also have to link to the Ozark's first article in regards to the Agape boarding school / now known as Stone for Help boarding school situation. This is a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that has and pending over 21, count them folks, 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against them. So far, all of them have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, that's just for starters. You got one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor up still on the premises up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy chasing after drag queens to actually protect kids from real pedophiles. And you've got a governor off his nuts. So please share that article on all your social media. You know the drill. All right, we got the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates in the ever-present self-explanatory change.org shut the Judge Rotenberg Center down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use the headphones, all right? All right. This channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity and we speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, parental supervision is very much advised, all right? Trigger warning. We're about to once again descend into the mad ravings of the lunatic mind known as Dr. Matthew Israel. You're going to hear gaslighting, victim blaming, pseudoscience, lie after motherfucking lie. Enough ableism and bigotry to circle the globe a few thousand times, all coming from a man with a massive ego and even larger God complex. So be prepared for the fucking stupid, all right? All right, so before we get into it, we get into it. I wanted to make clear what these behavioral rehearsal lessons actually are and what they consist of, because we're about to get a lot of smoke blown up our ass. It is psychologically just fucked up, okay? This whole concept of scare them straight, which has been used numerous times, especially in conversion therapy, we all know it doesn't fucking work. But he's still using it, and his acolytes are still using it and getting away with it. So let's read this insanity, and I'm going to basically sort out the truth from all the bullshit. Mock and threatening stabbings to elicit unacceptable behaviors which then result in electric shock punishment have been reported. No student at the JRC has ever been threatened with violence or any other sort in order to elicit an unacceptable behavior, as is falsely claimed by the MDRI report. Lie! It's a lie, doctor. Want to know how I know it's a lie? It's a little thing. It's called surveillance footage. Here's the things that back up what have been said about the bizarre behavioral rehearsal lessons. Let's go through them. Surveillance video footage. They report from the New York State Special Education Department. DESE reports. And the testimony of the victims who've been subjected to this insanity. I see your lies, doctor, and I raise you with receipts. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And again, you don't have to believe me. I'm not one of those idiots out there who just expect you to take my word and jump on an agenda. Please see for yourself. This is why I include Autistic Hoya's massive archive, so that you can pull up the documents without any manipulation from me and just read it for yourself. All right, let's move on here. Over almost 4 decades of JRC's existence, there have been few extremely dangerous students who required the use of a preventative form of behavior known as behavior rehearsal lessons, which are recognized and supported by peer-reviewed scientific journals. Lie, doctor. Lie. As a person who works in this field, fucking lie. I'm going to tell you from personal experience, and then I'm going to tell you from their actual communities what's been said. Shall we? Shall we just? And please don't take my word for it. Again, that's what that archive is there for. I hold myself as well as others accountable. Shocking, I know, in this day and age, but I guess these days the rebels out there are the ones who use critical thinking. Who would have thought, right? Who would have fucking thought? All right. Doctor, I know for a fact, and this is backed up by other media who've questioned other doctors. This isn't peer reviewed. And the doctor knows it's not peer reviewed. Because if it actually were, he'd list the specific works of other doctors legitimizing the bullshit. See, when Dr. Matthew Israel has someone who supports him, he splashes their names all over the place. You notice that lack of names or names of magazines and peer-reviewed research that he doesn't list? It's very simple, folks. It's because it doesn't exist. Let me be more blunt, doctor. Out here in my state, along with the doctors, those of us who served basically DD, those of us who work for DD, for Missouri Department of Social Services, MDRH, I can tell you, never my entire tenure there or since have I seen a single peer-reviewed document of any kind encouraging this insanity. Not one. Not one. The individuals and doctors with whom I speak and have had relationships, friendships, allyship with for fucking over a decade have also never read anyone supporting this insanity. Because it doesn't exist, doctor. You're using loosely peer-reviewed. Those who approve of your methods are the very same doctors, nurses, and other staff that you're paying. That's not how peer review works. Again, doctor, I speak as someone whose mother has been in healthcare for over fucking 40 years. It's not how peer reviewed works. Peer review works when you have individuals from other states and even different places around the globe who would be submitting their journals to the big magazines, Psychology Today being one of the biggest out here in the US. I don't see that article in Psychology Today, doctor, and I have a subscription. I've had it for over 15 years. That's a lie. And you also cannot call it peer-reviewed when the individuals who are reviewing it are people you're paying. They can't have any connection to you. No dog in the fight, as it were. Okay? It's not peer review. Also, I notice, unlike in other places where you said we out and out lied and then said where we're not, that you do not want to discuss these lessons into any kind of detail. You do in the paragraph below, saying it's dangerous and threatening but happens rarely. Allow me to explain this to you, folks. If the behavior is happening rarely, it's because we know it's wrong. When we resist acting in the manner that you want us to, we understand the fact that it's fucking wrong. Which means what you're doing is pointless. I have mentioned before, individuals like this want you to live in a world of magical thinking. that if we just try hard enough and brainwash them enough and force them to act neurotypical, we can cure them. That's not reality. That's not accepting your kid for who they are, flaws and all. Reality is, in this very real world of ours, those behaviors are always going to be there at some level. When we are overwhelmed, when we are stressed, when we fucking snap, it's gonna happen. The reality of what we can control and what we cannot is vastly different from what those with magical thinking want you to believe. Okay? Let me explain it to you. There are certain behaviors that I had as a child that I still have, that I know are never going to go away. Not entirely. It is a part of my diagnosis and how my brain is formed. What I can do as a conscientious person who analyzes herself constantly is to minimize the triggers. Use enough reasonable accommodations and coping techniques to bring these situations down to a bare minimum. But also accepting that I am what and who I am. I know these incidents are still going to occur. And that when I come out of that state, I'm going to have to deal with the aftermath somehow and get my head right. So I come up with, as a logical person would, plans. How after one of those episodes, I need to relax, get away from sounds, people, everything, and just sit there by myself, sometimes for hours, to bring myself back to a functioning level. Okay? What you can do in the real world when you don't have magical thinking is what these kids are already fucking doing. If it is a dangerous behavior that we engage in rarely, we know it's wrong. You don't need to fucking force us to have it and then torture us for it to convince us it's fucking wrong. We got the memo, Karen. We understand this concept. But we are what we are. It's never going to change. All that we can do, those of us who like to live in reality and not fucking la la land, is accept this as a reality and prepare for those moments when they do occur as best we can. And try to prepare our folks and those around us, roommates, what have you, as best we can for what to do when those situations occur. Bring it down to a bare minimum to where we're still able to function on the daily. Be prepared for when those situations do occur, when we don't have control. And then what to do afterwards to bring us out. And not basically trigger another episode. Okay? Is this the fun part of my diagnosis? Fuck no. I fucking hate it. Everybody hates it. There are parts of my disability that I love, including analytical and logical thought. And there are the parts I don't like, when I do lose control, when I do snap. But I accept that part of my disability as well as the good parts. I prepare myself and others as best I can for those situations, because that's all you can do. There is no amount of behavior modification out there on this planet that is going to remove every single situation from a person. They cannot remove the instances where we're going to have meltdowns. Even neurotypicals have fucking meltdowns when they snap. All right? How much more so is that true for us? Think about it. Okay? There is no 100% stopping us from having that type of reaction any more than there is for the neurotypical who does the same fucking thing when they're stressed. We got to get out of magical thinking. You cannot essentially brainwash and pseudoscience us out of our diagnoses. Okay? Your behavioral rehearsal lessons have no purpose, they serve no good, and they only give you the excuse to torture us again for reacting within our neurology. You don't handle meltdowns by fucking inducing meltdowns. What crack are you on? Anyone out here that works in the field, do not deliberately trigger an autistic person into a violent meltdown. You want to know why? They like breathing. I'm just saying. You know? It's not like Paul's like, you know what? I'm bored. I'm just going to push on one of Tiffany's triggers until she busts an autistic meltdown.
I don't like property destruction, so no.
Okay? It is not intelligent to provoke a meltdown, to teach us that it's wrong. This is, again, something operating under this idea and concept that we are doing this of our own free will and you can condition us to not do it. It's not how it works. We cannot control it, folks. What part of this do you not understand? We can minimize it. We can bring it down to a minimum where we're able to function and live our day-to-day lives. And yes, successfully so. Fuck y'all. I do it every day. But they're going to happen. No amount of punishment, threats, or abuse. Again, this is coming from experience. Is ever going to change the fact there are going to be moments when I have an autistic snap and meltdown. It is what it is. You learn what you can. You bring it as much down to a minimum as you can. And you prepare for when those moments do occur. You try to prepare others as best you can for when that moment occurs. That's reality. It's reality, Dr. Matthew Israel and all the rest of them pushing this ABA bullshit down your throats every year, especially in April, don't want you to know. We're going to go close out on that. We don't get very many reviews on this channel. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit those comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. I'll see you next vid, everybody.